Here are all the brassicas ready to be planted out now. What we got? This is obviously kale, this lot, and then purple sprouting here and calabrese here. Now I have a set procedure for the brassicas which normally works brilliantly, and it involves bringing them on in the polytunnels, and then when they're about this size, planting them out and then covering them with a mesh to keep the butterflies off, because the real terror for brassicas is the cabbage white. Little white butterflies that come and lay their eggs down in the middle of the young plant, and then the caterpillars hatch and just munch their way through it. So this May was the hottest and driest May that I can remember. I think it was at least the sunniest, if not the driest May on record. Anyway, it got so hot in the polytunnel that I had to take these plants out. You can see here there's some actual heat damage going on. So even though they were well watered, it was just too hot in the polytunnel. We had both the doors open, but then of course it's just literally a tunnel which the butterflies can come in and out of. And some days I just had to put these plants out in the shade, it was so hot. Consequently, they got and so there is some caterpillar damage, which is really annoying. It's not bad. As you can see, the kale's strange enough unaffected. Not much on the purple sprouting, there's a few holes, but the calabrese has taken a bit of a beating. So you can see here, like this plant here, this leaf is almost gone. So really annoying. Yeah, shouldn't normally happen with the system that I've got in place, but like I say, exceptional weather. The annoying thing about this happening is that there may be eggs on the plants which I can't see at the moment. So if I plant them all out and then net them up, it's possible I'll be trapping some caterpillars in there with the plants. But I'll keep an eye on them. I'll keep a close eye on them this time. Yeah. So I kind of feel I took my eye off the ball a bit with these plants, that they got the eggs laid on them in the first place, but at least they're still alive. There's still plenty of plants. It's all going to be fine. Right, let's get these out and actually get them in the garden. So when the weeds are teeny weeny like these ones, you can just get them with a hoe, and by bringing them to the surface like that, it exposes the roots to the heat and the light, dries them out, and it's loads easier than actually weeding by picking things out, which is what you have to do when they get a bit bigger. There's lots of other types of weed control obviously, and what I used to do with the brassicas here was put cardboard down so that the plants were poking up with cardboard surrounding them, and then when I mowed the garden I just collected grass in the back of the mower and chucked that on top of the cardboard, and the idea of that was that it would stop the cardboard blowing away, and by the time the cardboard had rotted down enough to let the grass through, or the worms had come up and pulled it down, that grass would no longer be full of viable seeds, and so you wouldn't just turn your brassicas into a lawn. And of course that stops any weeds coming up, because you're excluding the light from everything apart from the plants. And that worked really well. But back in those days I had an inexhaustible supply of cardboard. So this is just a different way of doing it. It's not better, it's not worse, it's just a different way. So by mulching it with cardboard, I'd say that's a method it's a lot of work at the outset, and then it's quite easy. This requires keeping on top of it, but it's each time that you do something is very little work. So it probably evens out in the end. And this is a really important concept in gardening, I think, that there's generally no right way of doing it. There's so many methods of gardening. All that matters at the end of the day is that the crops are healthy. There's no more to it than that. So people who go on about no dig or permaculture or this or that or any kind of thing, it starts, I think, getting into the realms of dogma when you just start taking on a system and then just following it to the letter. I think it's absolutely fine just to take something from here, there and everywhere, just get a whole load of ideas and find out what works for you and for your own situation. I mean, here for instance we've got a very unique environment where I've had to actually make the soil from scratch, so lots of the usual systems would be completely irrelevant here. Hello, welcome back to the garden. It's right the end of June and I've come out here today with my little basket because I think this is the first day I can harvest enough food to make, well, most of a meal. Anyway, we'll find out. First though, let's have a quick look around the beds and I'll bring you up to date with all that. As you can probably tell by the hedge blowing around in the background there, it's a really windy day today. I'm hoping that the audio is still reasonable. Stark contrast to last week when it was like 30 degrees and I couldn't film because it was just too hot. Yeah, it's been all over the place, the weather. Here we are at bed number 1 with the potatoes. Now this is half second earlies and half main crop. So the second earlies are in front of us here. Now, even a week ago there was a noticeable difference between the two. And the only flowers were on the second earlies here in the front half. But in the last few days, with all the rain we've had over the weekend, they've really evened out actually. So for ages the potatoes have grown so slowly there wasn't much to see here, and I actually planted a couple of sunflowers in the middle because I figured they'd grow up and they wouldn't shade the potatoes but they'd provide, you know, something nice to look at. Then we had a massive massive growth spurt from the potatoes and they've just swamped the sunflower. I don't even know where they are anymore. I only planted, well I planted 3, the chicken deck one. There it is, there's one. Oh, it's still alive. There it is. This one's not going to do well. But yeah, it's bed number 1, romping along. Alright, bed number 2, brassicas. First lot here is mostly calabrese, so that's the autumn broccoli. And then the other 2/3 is mostly kale and purple sprouting that will come through in Easter time. And then there's a few cauliflower in between. So we had a bit of drama with the brassicas this year. I always start them off in a seed tray in the polytunnel, so they germinate really quickly then. And I pot them up into pots about that big. A cabbage white must have got in there and laid some eggs, and suddenly there were caterpillars on there, which is, yeah, right bummer. So we picked off all the caterpillars that we could see, and then just went ahead and planted them all out, because at least then they could be netted and that keeps the butterflies off. So some of the plants when they went out were little more than just stalks. Some of them, yeah, just didn't grow after that. So to make up for the completely duff ones, Becky found some cauliflower seedlings in Tesco's of all places. We put those in the polytunnel for a week or so in bigger pots to boost them up a bit, and we've planted those in there to, well, we culled out the worst of the brassicas that were there and then replaced them with cauliflowers. So I've not tried growing cauliflowers before, but obviously they're part of the brassica family as well, so they'll do fine alongside everything else. So the calibres won't be ready until the autumn. I'm not sure when the cauliflower will be ready. It's got a long way to go yet. Purple sprout will be ready in Easter, but the kale, some of the kale is ready now, so I'm going to pick some of that in a minute. But first let's look at bed number 3, and this is the everything else bed. So everything that's not taters, squash or brassicas goes in here. And this is a bit of a mixed bag. But there is some stuff that can be harvested right now, so that's great. At the front here we've got carrots, and then peas, and then onions, beetroot, spring onion and lettuce. Now these weren't planted out very well by me. I didn't really think forward to how they were going to grow, and yeah, so the peas are just all over the shop, and putting the onions between the peas and the beetroot was just not a great plan. It is salvageable, but yeah, this was not ideal by any means. So the lettuce, that was the first thing that was edible, and I ate loads of lettuce and I'm sick of lettuce now, so I'm going to take all that out. I think it's got really big as well now. You can see how big these are. So these are mixed salad leaves. Yeah, had enough of those. So what I'll do is take out all of that lettuce, and that'll give the spring onions next door to it lots of room to grow. And I'll thin through the beetroot in a minute, and I think some of that will be ready for harvesting as well. So some of the peas I took out of that lot and transplanted over here, which is a more sensible place for peas, and they're doing all right. Some of them have got pods are growing on them. That's, yeah, not edible yet. And then over here we've got broad beans. And then these, I would have hoped for a bit more from the broad beans. Oh, there's some. We've got a pod. They're not doing great though. They're alright. And then on the end of bed number 3, this is beans. And this sheeting I put up, obviously it's not to stop insects because it doesn't all join up, it's to stop pigeons. So for ages the beans were just doing really badly. There was hardly anything going on here, and it turned out when I had a close look at the leaves it was bird damage, and it was, as the plants were small, obviously the leaves must be tasty to pigeons. Yeah, they were just coming down and pecking away at those, and the plants were never really getting going. So I built this tent sort of thing up just to deter the pigeons really, and the beans have got going now. This is what it looks like. This is bird damage, and it wasn't the chickens because it was fenced off here with this low fence, so the chickens weren't getting in, it was the pigeons. So that was a new one on me. And then here we've got bed number 4, which is all the squash family. So we've got 3 courgette plants here, and then it's a mixture of squash, big pumpkins I think is what I planted, and butternut squash, which are the ones that are not doing very well. So you might remember back early on, it was the butternut squash that was struggling to even germinate in the polytunnel, and planted out, it's still not doing very well. Very odd that, because it's normally a very good, very reliable crop here, butternut squash. I may have just got a duff batch of seeds. So the courgettes you can see here are just romping along. And that's definitely ready to eat. And you can see here, there's another one and another one there. Over here then, this is courgette as well. You can see a There's one on the go there. Zucchini if you're overseas. I don't mind the difference in names. And you can see here the stark similarity between the two plants, even though this one is squash and this one is courgette. And you can see there, under that flower, there's a tiny little pumpkin on the way. Here in the strawberry patch, there were strawberries. I think the chickens ate them, which is fine. I'm not that keen on strawberries myself. There's some garlic. I can add that to the basket. There's more garlic in here. It's turned into sort of a wildflower bed, strange enough, and lots of ryegrass. So yeah, you can see these, they're turning yellow. These are garlics here. So there's quite a few. These are all self-seeded actually from last year, and I thought I'd let them grow and see what happened. Once the leaves go like that, they're pretty much ready to pull up. So I'll do that and clear this whole bed then and start again. Not a lot going on in this bed, but we've got what is it, spinach here, and then the second half is chard. Bright Lights chard. That's got a long way to go before that gets picked. So I've moved some of the tomato plants outside and I've left some inside the polytunnel, and I want to do a comparison on the growth rates. But it's been such strange weather that they're actually pretty much the same. All that's left in the polytunnel are plants that are going to stay in here right up till harvest, except for the leeks, this lot here, which are going to go out in a bed probably next week. I was going to pot them up into individual pots, but I'm going to actually take someone's advice from the comment section and plant them straight out, probably where the lettuce is at the moment. But in here everything's doing okay. It's not romping along, but it's picking up pace. This lot here are the capsicums. That's the big bell peppers, sweet peppers. They're doing alright. These are chili peppers. They're doing okay, but yeah, I've got a long way to go yet. So remember, all these have grown from seed, so quite a lot behind where I would be if I'd bought little seedlings from a garden centre, not that any were open at the time. What we got here, these are Moneymaker tomatoes. Here I've got the first tomato on the way, the first one I've noticed anyway. Here it is. This is a Coralic tomato. This is unusual because you don't pinch out the side shoots on these ones. They have a different growth pattern. And the first time I tried these, they seem nice and healthy. And then these are all aubergines over here. Something's nibbling at the leaves. Not sure what. But the plants themselves are nice and healthy. They're coming along great. Again, I might put one or two of these outside on the patio. Apparently, when they get bigger, aubergines are quite pretty plants. Right, now I've brought you up to date on all the beds and the polytunnel. Let's go around again and see what I can harvest. I'm hoping to get enough stuff together to make a stir fry. This is the garlic bulb that came from there. Let's grab a courgette next. Grab this big one, I think. One courgette. So a carrot next, I think. Yes. Beetroot I never really knew what to do with when I first started growing it. You can eat the leaves, they're quite good for salad. And I think you could probably wilt the leaves into a stir fry, but I won't do it this time. I'll do that with, what does it taste like? It's alright, the leaves, they're not wonderful. They're a bit spinachy. Not that I want to eat that. But the main thing I do with beetroot, when they're like this, is take the outer skin off, and then I slice it up small and put it in a stir fry. And I find it softens up. It's just like putting carrots in a stir fry, basically. So yeah, chop it small, and then I cook it under a fairly low heat, almost sauteing it really. And yeah, jolly nice. Does make your stir fry go purple. Like I said before, this was a complete cock up. I got way too much of this salad leaf stuff, and it's too close to this row of spring onions next to it. But like I say, I'm sick of this stuff now, so I'm going to just pull these out. And it turns out that Becky doesn't eat it at all. Yeah. What I will do is plant a few more, but nowhere near this quantity. It's much better to have a few plants that you keep small, so you just keep taking what you want and letting them grow on. So you can probably see here, these spring onions are struggling a bit, as you'd expect, but they're not too bad, I suppose. But yeah, a bit early for those. I'll treat them more like chives. So the nice thing, because spring onions, you can eat them, you know, most of the way up. Broad beans, we've got one pod. I'm not convinced that pod's ready yet, but I'm going to pick it anyhow. I'm just curious. Yeah. There are beans in there, and they're tiny. Quite unimpressive, the broad beans this year. Don't know why. There's another little pod there, but yeah, they're not doing that well. So kale's a great plant. This curly kale, which you probably can't see through the mesh. Let me pick some a sec. So what I do with this is rip off the sides, leave the stalk because it's generally quite tough, rip off the sides and chuck that in. Sometimes I can steam it. If I'm doing something like carrots and broccoli in shallow water, I'll chuck this in on top without ripping it up too much, just taking off the lower bit of the stalk, giving it just a few minutes, draining it, and then serve it up with loads of butter. It's very nice. But for a stir fry, I'll either wilt it into the stir fry, so rip it all up, put it on top of the stir fry with a plate on top for a couple of minutes, and then stir fry as usual. Let's grab a few of those. Bigger leaves like that. And I'm just going to take a couple from each plant. Well, I've had to come back in the polytunnel, it's so windy out there. That's a good start for a stir fry. We've got beetroot, garlic, carrot, 2 beans, a handful of spring onions, a courgette, and a load of kale. And I think I'll chuck in some bacon as well because I'm like that. Not something I grow here though, not yet. There we are, all up to date then. I'll just say once again that this is very much not intended as a tutorial on gardening whatsoever, but rather just to show what you can do without much effort. I'm not even all that into gardening, I wouldn't say, but with just a bit of effort at the beginning and then just 10 minutes here and there to keep it rolling along, you can grow quite a lot of food. And it's nice to do that, and it's nice to be a little bit less dependent on the outside world, so it's a bit more sort of peace of mind really as well. Plus you then get fresher food than the stuff that you grow in your own garden. Anyway, that'll do for now. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Cheers.